welcome to Freshly Served, the healthy vegan cooking show. I'm Heather, and tonight we are making a red wine lentil salad. Lentils, obviously a good source of protein for us. So to start, got the pan heated up back here, and I'm using a saucepan because I'm going to get the lentils in the same pot. This way I can add water to this after I'm done sauteing the onions and garlic, which of course is my favorite part of the meal. Smells delicious. To hear that start to sizzle just a little bit as I throw them in, that's good. That means the pot was nice and hot to start with. And I'm using olive oil. I'll just get the onions coated in the oil, and then I'll let them simmer for a little bit while I get the rest of the ingredients going. And while the onions and garlic were cooking, I diced a carrot, which I'm now going to throw in with these guys. Again, just stir it around, and then we'll let it saute for a few minutes. So I don't like carrots that are too cooked. I like them to stay a little bit crunchy. What I'm waiting for here is just to make sure the carrots are cooked just enough that they keep their flavor when I put the lentils and the water in here. So I'm ready for the lentils, and I'm just going to throw them in. I've got a cup, and a bay leaf is what I'm going to use for seasoning. So get the lentils stirred in with the onions, the garlic, and the carrot. So I'm not adding any salt or pepper at this point, because if I add salt now, it's going to interfere with how the lentils cook. And what we're going to do is steep these lentils. And what that means is, if you think about it in terms of like steeping tea, when you steep tea, you put it in boiling water, but you don't boil it. And then you let the water draw out the flavor of the tea leaves. So in this case, what we're doing is we're adding water to these lentils, and I've got 2 cups of water to the 1 cup of lentils. I'm going to turn this up a little bit to medium-high so that I get it boiling. And so it's going to draw the flavor out of the vegetables while it cooks the lentils. But what happens is when you steep something as in food, as opposed to tea where there's water left over, in food you're going to end up with no water left, and these lentils are just going to be in some nice moist vegetables. So the flavor comes out of the food, but then it gets sucked back into the lentils and back into the carrots and things, so that the flavors are all going to stay in the dish. It's going to be super yummy. And the lentils will take probably about 20 minutes. You don't need to make them too soft because we're putting this in salad, so it's nice to have some good texture. But they do need to cook, so I'll give them about 20 minutes. Now actually, while those guys are cooking, I'm going to put together the dressing so that it has time to combine the flavors together. So I have here some beautiful red wine vinegar and some olive oil. And I'm going to mix these 1 to 1. So if I look at how much vinegar I have in there, and add about the same amount of olive oil. Now most people tell you to do a ratio of more olive oil, or more oil in general, to vinegar for salad dressings. If you're doing a dressing for a bean or a lentil, which is another type of legume, you want to have about equal amounts oil and vinegar, or whatever other liquid you're using. And I'm going to add some sea salt, some black pepper, and that's all I'm going to put in there. I've got my little whisk. Also great if you have a jar, you can just shake this up. Lovely. Now the salt is essential to get to flavor the lentils. It's also going to bring the vinegar and the oil together, otherwise they will stay separate. The red wine vinegar giving a really nice pinky color to the dressing. And I've got some little flecks of pepper in here as well. Alright, I'm getting my sunflower crumble ready to go, but my lentils have just started to come to the boil. So what I'm going to do is to steep them. I will turn them down so that they just simmer rather than fully boil. Gives a bit of a different texture to the lentils. A hard boil will keep them really nice and solid, whereas a steep will soften them up a little bit. So I've got some sunflower seeds that I've ground up in my coffee grinder. I'm going to put them in a container, and I'm using a container that I'm going to put in the fridge afterwards because I'm only going to use part of this today. While I'm making it, I'm making a bit extra because I think I'm going to use some tomorrow for dinner. Okay, so I've got sunflower seeds ground here. I will add some sea salt. And you want a good amount of salt in here because this crumble is kind of like along the idea of like a feta kind of cheese, and it needs to be salty. Now, key ingredient for this one is nutritional yeast. Most of the time I say nutritional yeast is optional because it is just a flavoring, but in this case the flavor of the nutritional yeast is what makes it taste cheesy. So you could try it without it, but I really don't think it would be the same kind of thing. So that's all I got in there, just stirring it around to evenly distribute it throughout there, and then I will add some olive oil. Just enough to bring the seeds together with the salt and the nutritional yeast, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Alright, my lentils have been going for about 25 minutes. I gave them a little taste test. They are feeling just soft, but not too soft. So they won't fall apart in my salad, which is what I like. Now, there is some liquid left over, so what I'm going to do is just drain off the excess. A lot of it has been absorbed by the lentils and back into the carrots, but there's just a bit left over. And what I want to do is add a dressing to this, so I don't want it to be too wet. I'm going to add my dressing, which I'll just whisk up a little bit, make sure it's fully mixed. I'm going to pour most of this on the lentils, but I'm saving a bit to put into the lettuce that I'm going to use as a salad base for these lentils. So I'll stir that, take out the bay leaves, because you don't really want to eat them. I used 2 because I have little tiny ones that I got from a friend's tree. So I'll give that a stir. And I'm going to mix in the chard that I've chopped up. And I have some beautiful rainbow chard. Chard has big, thick stems, which you can cut off if you don't like. Phil's not a huge fan of them, so I'm leaving them out tonight, although I would usually use them. Now what's going to happen is I'm just putting the chard in for a few minutes so that it wilts. And to help it wilt, draw out the moisture, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on there. And that will help draw the moisture out of the chard and get it cooked. I probably should have used a bigger pot. This is going to be a little bit tight. So I managed to get my chard down in there. It does shrink up, of course, as all greens do when they heat. And what I'm going to do is leave this on the heat for at least 10 minutes so that the dressing can work its way into the lentils. I did not cook them with any salt, of course, so you need to give at least 10 minutes for these beans to soak up that liquid. I've got it on low, so the chard isn't going to break down too much. And I'll just put the lid on here. So I've got some leaf lettuce, just lightly dressed with the extra dressing for the lentils. I just tasted my lentils to make sure that they've absorbed enough flavor. They taste spectacular. And I'm just going to spoon some of that over the lettuce. How beautiful that is. And the finishing touch, a little bit of our sunflower seed crumble. Just sprinkle a little bit on top. Nuts are not the greatest combination to have with lentils if you put too much, but if you're just going to sprinkle a few on, should go down really nicely. Tastes amazing and it looks beautiful. Enjoy your red wine lentil salad.